Have you struggled to stick with healthy behaviors that you know deep down are really good for you and who you want to become? Do you find yourself battling your own self control only to eventually cave in to immediate gratification at the expense of what you really want in your life? If so, that means you are normal. It also means that you have a brain, one that's evolved to keep you alive. And when you lose a battle with yourself, that just means that you released your inner squirrel into the wild and it's now doing what it does best. So cut yourself some slack and give yourself a little compassion. Not only will that help you feel better immediately, but it's an integral step toward taming your squirrel and reaching your manifesto, which you are about to learn about. You may believe that you just don't have enough willpower, and that if you could just get more of it, you'd be better off. You'd get what you want and be who you want to be. You may also think that successful people must have more willpower. In some cases, that may be true. However, recent research suggests otherwise. In fact, more often than not, it's not that your willpower is any less than that of someone who seems to be more disciplined and capable of sticking with their resolutions. Instead, it's that your environment might be exposing you to more frequent face to face encounters with your squirrel, and you are being forced to utilize willpower more often. And each time you harness willpower, that takes energy, and you only have so much energy to allocate to that fight. You only have so much energy to put toward your own will. When banking on willpower alone for self regulation, when relying solely on willpower to overcome the tendencies and desires of your squirrel brain, the research suggests you'll end up failing at least 20% of the time, no matter how strong your willpower is. What that means to you on a practical level is this: if you've successfully fought off a variety of different urges at 8 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., and 4 p.m., chances are you'll give in to that 9 o'clock urge to have the donut you told yourself you would not eat. Bingo. Lucky for you, you have choices. You can focus on building more willpower. You can alter your environment so that you have fewer than 5 unhealthy temptations a day, so that you have less need for your limited supply of willpower. Or you can carefully plan even farther ahead and make sure that when you do hit your willpower threshold, which at some point is inevitable, you literally have no unhealthy options at your disposal. For example, if you know that you'll have the urge to eat ice cream before bedtime, don't keep ice cream in your freezer. And for that matter, don't keep anything sweet or sugary in your entire household. Give your car keys to your neighbor and your wallet to your son or daughter. Deflate the tires on your bike and let your dog literally eat your shoes. This type of solution and using these tactics would be like putting your squirrel in your local zoo and hoping it doesn't figure out how to climb the tree to get over the gate and escape back into the wild. This isn't what taming your squirrel is all about. One thing is for certain: if left untamed, your squirrel will figure a way out of its cage to freedom. And then it will run up and down the same trees, follow the same path, and look for the same nuts it always looks for. It will keep an active eye out for predators because it believes danger is lurking around every corner. And it will want to stay home where it is safe, comfortable, and familiar as much as possible. That's what your squirrel, when put in the wild, will do. It's up to you to tame your squirrel. It isn't about overpowering with brute force, building cages, or removing every tree and nut in the forest. Instead, and by definition, the taming you are after is to make your squirrel less powerful, easier to control, and willing to cooperate. When done right, no rages or cages will be necessary. According to David DeSteno, psychology professor at Northeastern University, a better approach for taming your squirrel, for integrating and sustaining healthy behaviors, actions, and choices is to cultivate what he calls prosocial emotions. These pro-social emotions evolved along with us to promote not only positive social behavior, but also lasting behavioral change. He argues that if willpower was meant to really help you evolve into a better version of yourself, it would be easy, pleasurable, and rewarding in and of itself, but it's not. Sure, reaching your goal is rewarding, but the willpower to stay on track takes effort and energy, and it's fatiguing, which ultimately leads to your squirrel brain getting its chance to take over. And you know what that ultimately means for you. You will figure out a way to seek pleasure, avoid discomfort, and conserve energy by doing what you've always done, all at the expense of your willpower. That's where cultivating compassion, gratitude, and pride come in to help you. They feel good. They stimulate a dopamine response in your brain and they actually boost energy. And even more, your new way of being will become contagious and attractive to others, which will result in even better relationships and more meaningful connections, which will end up stimulating more dopamine and another energy boost. Following this recipe will feel more like riding a wave of the good life energy. DeCento says, we too often discount the value of the future in favor of appeasing ourselves in the present tense. So how do we solve the problem in investing in our future selves? The first step is in seeing our future selves as real and having compassion for them. This plays upon our pro-social emotions to cooperate with others. But in this case, we are cooperating with our future selves. It's the bottom-up route to grit, says David. According to De Cento, the real reason that monks practice meditation is to cultivate compassion in order to help with self-control. Through their daily practice, they change what they value, which makes self-regulation easier. This arises not through improving discipline via willpower, but rather through a practice of meditation to create compassion for their future selves. When you cultivate compassion, gratitude, and pride, not only do you want to help other people, but you literally end up caring more about your future self too. You essentially train your brain to consider your moment to moment decisions more and to discount the future less, because behind the scenes, you will connect more deeply to who you really want to be and what you really want to do. And you'll understand at a deeper, more foundational level that each action you take right now has an impact on who and what you will become. You value the hero you want to become. And when it comes to your squirrel, you won't need to fight, overpower, avoid, or cage it in so much. Instead, this kind of taming makes your squirrel less powerful, easier to control, more cooperative, predictable, and safe. When done this way, you will need less willpower to resist your squirrel brain's urges to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and do what it's always done before. In exchange, it will be easier for you to make choices that lead you toward your bigger picture goals and live your manifesto, to do what your hero really wants to do. So, you do have choices when it comes to dealing with your squirrel and sticking with healthy behaviors that support your manifesto. You can fight your squirrel by using willpower to overpower it, but that takes energy and effort and doesn't feel so good when in the heat of the battle with yourself. You can avoid your squirrel by crafting your environment in a way that minimizes the number of times you'll come face to face with the squirrel. But that takes discipline, careful organization, and deliberate planning ahead of time. Or you can tame your squirrel by cultivating compassion, gratitude, and pride to strengthen your attachment to the future you and your desire to help others. And that actually feels good while you are engaged in the exercise. Sort of like Pilates for your mind. This one feels good while you're doing it. Cultivating pro-social emotions. Gratitude. You can keep wishing or hoping or telling yourself that if only you acquired this or had that, or could get more of this or get rid of that, then you'd be good. Or you can think about what you already have in life at this moment, in this breath, that you appreciate and are sincerely grateful for. Compassion. Compassion is what inspires you to care about and want to help others, whether that's your friends and family, others in your community, strangers you meet on the street, people you've never met and never will, and even your own future you. Mindful meditation builds compassion. Compassion changes what you value. and this translates into an increased willingness to sacrifice in the short term, not only to help others, but to help your own future self as well. Authentic pride. Pride comes in two distinct flavors, one that develops a more unpleasant aftertaste with each sip, and the other that gets better and better each time you taste it. Jessica Tracy defines authentic pride as the pride that you feel when you've worked really hard for an accomplishment or an achievement that's important to you and important to your sense of self. It typically makes you feel a genuine sense of self-confidence. Authentic pride tastes good, and not only to you, but others like its flavor too. And the more you share it, the more flavorful it becomes to you, and others will like it more too. And they will gather around you from near and far, wanting a sample. In addition to feeling good about yourself, it just feels really good when you work really, really hard on something that's really, really important to you. She goes on to say that hubristic pride is the pride that's much more about arrogance, egotism, conceitedness. We often identify it in other people, but we do feel it in ourselves as well. People who feel this kind of pride tend to have poor social relationships. They don't care so much about others. They're unempathetic. As a result, they don't have great friendships or personal relationships or even romantic relationships. Whereas authentic pride is really great for all that stuff. Authentic pride makes us want to like others, be close to others, and help others, and it helps build our relationships. Hubristic pride might taste good at first. You might initially like it. Others might like the way it tastes at first too, but it has an aftertaste, one that builds up over time, that at some point neither you or anyone else ends up enjoying. That's the important difference between authentic pride. When you feel pride in being good at something that either you or others value, or when you possess a unique skill that benefits other people around you, that feels wonderful. And not just in the short term, it's sustainable. But there's even more to it. From an evolutionary perspective, possessing a skill that was valued by others in your community meant you'd be looked at as someone others would want to cooperate with or partner with. You had prestige and held an important place in society. Most likely, you'd be protected by your tribe because you provided something they all needed. But there's even another step to this. Your authentic pride is contagious. It attracts others to you who want to cooperate with you. Before you know it, you'll have a tribe around you who want to do what you want to do and become who you want to become. And there's even one more step. Not only does it make others want to help you, authentic pride actually makes you more willing to stick with things, to work harder, to persevere. It makes you more committed to building grit, resiliency, and self-regulation. It makes you more committed to following your playbook and going for your ultimate manifesto. It makes you more committed to doing you.